Hey everybody, this is On, and I'm coming to you with this month's Connecting Codes video. I probably look a little funky. It might go a little in and out because I've got a background picture up because I'm having to film inside of my vehicle today, and it's kind of warm in here, and I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. We've got a little thunder lightning storm going on, and so you might hear some of that in the background. But I really want to get started here with July's Connecting Codes videos. So what's coming up for July, what the codes are showing, what the things are we're supposed to pay attention to. For those that aren't familiar with my work completely, I am the author of The Code Journey, and that is a book that I put out every single year, and it's got insights for the year and the months and the days and lunar cycles and angel influences and all kinds of things like that in it. And with that book, what I do is I address things, and it brings things both. It's a personal journey book, like a spiritual almanac in a way. So it gives you the currents, and then it invites you to take different steps of action, whether that's contemplating something or, um, doing something or trying something. But it also talks about things that might come up in our world events. And so, since I know not everybody wants to deal with world events, I've created this channel for it. And that's what I do. Every month I put out a video that gives us a heads up of what we need to be paying attention to and what is coming up as far as the code perspective, which is sort of like a language. I'm able to tap into what is happening, what the energetic currents and the patterns are, and then see what types of things are going to be coming up for us at a particular time. So right now we'll be looking at July in this video, July 2024. And we are looking a lot. You can tell by the thumbnail that we've got some things going on in regards to philanthropic uh, things and in regards to the military and things like that. So let's delve right in because this is all new filming from this vehicle and not an actual location. Just happened to have this spot here that I'm trying to work with today. So uh, we're going to hope it works well and it holds out for me during this whole time. Okay, so with July, we have some interesting patterns coming up, and we have this dominatrix submissive control patterns that are going on. And when we get into that patterns, that's where a lot of times people in positions of authority, they become into that domination position and they want to bring as many other people into a submissive position. So you get this slave master dynamic, domination submission dynamic going on. And one of the things that they really will focus on is the victimization of non compliers. So if you're not complying to the narrative, you're going to probably be more of a target in July. We're going to see them going more after those people who don't want to support the corruption, who want to stand up for freedom, who want to stand up for what's right, or values, or ethics, or things like that. And this is all about showing dominance and power. And that's very interesting because a lot of this is also going to come from those who are installed in their positions or their offices, or they've been given those positions to meet diversity standards or things like that. And it's not that they're so much qualified for the position, but it's like, oh, you're a certain ethnicity, so we'll put you in this position because we want to appear like we are diverse and hiring a variety of cultures and ethnicities and things like that. So it really is going to separate out who is installed and who has earned their successes during this time. So when we get into that, um, we're going to see all kinds of different tactics being used, from trying to get in and give orders and see who will be submissive, turning people against each other, playing some of these kind of games to see if they can control somebody, seeing these aspects of where they'll try some isolation. If they can't get control, they'll try to isolate people because they figure, well, if I can't control you, then I don't want you contaminating anybody else with your thoughts and your ideas of freedom and being able to speak up and not take my tyranny type of thing. So that's gonna show up. So this is really gonna bring into the spotlight those people who are trying to have this dominance. And the interesting thing, of course, anytime people have to play these big power plays like this, or they have to put people into a victimization position, they don't truly have power or control, because if they did, they wouldn't have to do that. So that's going to be an interesting thing for us to keep our eyes on. Now, we also have coming up in this month things connected to charities. So, human, animal, plant welfare is getting exposed this month in July. People are going to be living um, off the system, people that have been getting like a free ride and they don't need that free ride. Certainly there are people out there that actually need the benefits, but there's going to be more exposure to those people who are living off the system and getting a free ride, and they're perfectly capable of working or doing something and earning a living as opposed to being on the system. So that could also bring up greater exposure of what's happening with those people who are coming across our borders and are getting a lot of benefits, and they're getting, lodging, and they're getting food, and they're getting all kinds of benefits in there. Um, for things. And so we'll probably will see more exposure coming out. The thing with the charities is there's a lot of humanitarian energy that's coming up. So people's heartstrings strings are getting pulled very easily. And they want to believe that all these organizations and charities and philanthropic organizations and humanitarian organizations are all on the up and up. And these clubs, right? You have like Sierra Club and things like that. They want to believe they're all on the up and up doing great things, but they're not a lot of times. And a lot of it is just funneling money around to different organizations and going into people's big salaries, as opposed to really doing a lot of the things that they're saying. And many of these organizations are controlled by political narratives and political agendas. And as a result of that, they're not actually doing those charitable things. They're not actually working for the benefit of those people who, or people, humanity, animals, the planet, whatever it is. So there's a lot of illusion energy that's going on with this. And this is pressure being, um, we're going to see some pressure being eased. And this is a great illusion, as we kind of shift here. One of the things we're going to see, and we'll see more of this as it comes up near the election, is it's going to feel like the pressure is being eased up to make people think that they have enough. It's like luring people into a false sense of security, and then they plan to hit them harder, is what's going to happen. So people are going to think, oh, I've got enough, and they'll start to ease up and they'll go, oh, okay, well, maybe these people aren't as bad as I thought they were. It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. It's all about trying to get people to, maintain votes and things like that. So we have to be very, very careful of these illusions. Now, from the 1st through the 22nd, we have a lot of lies, manipulation um, happening, and um, people trying to prove themselves, uh, that they're worthy of a promotion. So here again, what's interesting about this is the corruption starts taking itself down because they're all trying to take each other down in order to raise their standing in the world, or in their circles or rings or whatever you want to say. They're trying to raise their standing, and in the process of that, they start taking each other down. Right? They start attacking each other. So a lot of this lies and deception. So it's a lot of this trying to get a higher position up that's going to be going on. And the lies at this time are going to get bigger and they're going to get worse. And that's going to lead to a lot of gaslighting. I mean, we're already seeing that. Like, there's been some recent videos come out around Biden and stuff, and they're trying to say, "Oh no, 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 those videos aren't. Oh no, no, they're cheap fakes," and they're not. There's no cut in the videos. There's no, anything like that happening. So it's not like the video's been spliced together to make it look a certain way. So um, what happens is when they try to go into bigger lies like this, and they try to lie worse than before, they expose themselves. So people start to go, this isn't even close to realistic, and it just becomes almost humorous in a way, because of that. So they're going to get bigger with the lies, worse with the lies. Um, and this is all about beating or trying to remove the competition. So, with this happening, they're going to realize that they're losing some ground. And they're going to realize, huh, boy, the good guys, so to say, are gaining an awful lot of ground. And those people that are in divine alignment, those people that are working actually for the people and not themselves, they're sure making a lot of progress. So that's going to lead to a lot of vindictiveness coming up and a lot of sabotaging going on. And that's going to get interesting. So we're going to see probably some pretty nasty jabs going on. That's going to lead to, um, again, this aspect of they don't want any piece of truth out there, because if there's a piece of truth out there, then people have a chance to see the truth. They have a chance to see the truth. They might think that they can join in being a part of that truth instead of accepting the lies. And the only way that this lies and these deceptions and these games and these narratives can go on is if the truth is removed. And so that's kind of the goal at this point. But we know that that never ends up working. And as long as people are willing to stand in the truth and stand in integrity, then um, they're not going to be able to get away with things. They end up exposing themselves in the process. We also have to pay very close attention, because what's going to happen is how power is used is going to become very important. That's going to be a big game changer, and it's going to bring the the rise and fall of people, based on this very thing. So if people are misusing their power to be vindictive, to sabotage other people because they don't want the truth out there, that's actually going to backfire, and it's going to lead to a much bigger and a much harder fall than they would like. Those people who can hold integrity, and we have elections going on in a lot of different places coming up over the next few months, those people who can hold integrity and stand in the truth, they're going to have bigger successes coming through. So they're going to be able to take some risks and take some chances and things like that, that their opponents cannot take in things. Now, so that power, how we want to see, how are people using their power? Are they using their power to actually do something beneficial, or are they using their power to try to take down their opponents, um, to harm people, to block people, to censor people, whatever the case is, to promote their lies? Then, yeah, that's going to tell us a lot about what direction things are going to go for who and where. So that's a big thing, how that power is used. Now, those that truly understand things bring forth real solutions. So we want to pay attention. Who are bringing forth real, sincere, feasible solutions? I don't mean these narratives like, environmental stuff, EV stuff. I don't, green stuff, I'm all for the environment. I love the environment. I have a lot of forested areas where I live, and I absolutely love it, and I want them preserved. I don't want everything torn down and buildings put up. That being said, we have to be very careful we're not going into all of these narratives, and we want to make sure that the solutions that are going up, because a lot of these solutions that are offered in the name of, you know, getting to zero whatever, and green this and green that, a lot of those are not real solutions, and they are not true solutions, and they're actually more damaging than they are helpful or beneficial. So we really want to pay attention to that and see who is bringing forth those real solutions, because those are the people who actually truly understand things, and those are the people we want to be paying attention to. And those are the people that are going to show us where to look, where to research, what to move towards. Now, there's also going to be a lot of strong provoking and triggering through injustices. And the way this works is somebody on the corruption side will start to invert things, they'll start to make things unfair. So, they're the people that are not with them, they may attack them for a very small thing, but then and those people get charged with, a huge crime, and then their own people may commit a gigantic crime and then have like no punishment for it, or almost no punishment. So there's an injustice that's happening there. and they use those injustices to trigger people, to get them riled up, to get them angry, to get them um, in a battle mode with them. And we don't want to be in that battle mode with them. We want to bring out the truth, but we want to do it in legal, lawful, ethical ways. And I'm sorry, I've got some glare coming off my glasses. I realize that. But we want to do it in these legal, lawful ways when we bring out the truth and stand very strong in that, because the truth will offset anything that they put out there. But they try to make us look bad, themselves look good, because they're hoping that will trigger us into reaction. And we don't want to go into reaction. We don't want to go into that space um, of going by our perceptions of things. We want to get into the actual truth and the actual facts on things. So paying attention to that, who's doing the provoking? We saw this like 4 years ago where they were calling violence on people. They were coming through and calling violence for people who weren't complying to certain things, telling groups to go out and attack people because they weren't complying to certain things. Uh, these sorts of pieces, uh, we don't want to get wrapped up in that. We don't want to get wrapped up into that reaction. Now, from the 23rd on, we have assassination energy going on. And this shows that we may very likely see attacks on those who are successful. So again, those that are bringing up divine presence, those are working in alignment with God. They may come under attack. There may be physical attacks for them. When we talk about world events, it does tend to be more physical. It can be verbal, or it may start as verbal, but we can actually see actual assassination attempts going on. And we do have some other things that support it and being in that. So that's probably going to come up. And this is part of the corruption, retaliating. Part of them saying, we don't like that you're making progress, so we're going to retaliate. We're going to try to take you out. Here again, that's the goal. If you can't beat them, take them out is the mentality in there. That being said, taking a look here, we also are going to see an increase in military action coming up. This shows up in a couple of different places in our codes. Again, this is the last week of the month, the 23rd on. And so that increase in military action is to bring people under control. They could be to bring people under control, and also to support people to stand up to corruption. So you're going to see, again, two aspects of the military. You'll see those that are attacking people, and then you're going to see those who are standing with the people and helping them to stand up to the corruption. And then, and not just the corruption, but those leaders who are installed and not elected into their positions. We also will see some peaceful protests going on, but we do need to be careful of that because of the assassination energy, because of some other dangerous energy that we have present in this month. We need to be careful of that because there can be accidents, there can be things that come up, but for the most part, they should be peaceful protests that are focused on morals and values. So issues around, for example, freedom, fighting against high government salaries and incomes and bonuses, and where they're profiting really, really high off of things, which makes them able to be influenced. People reevaluating things, a lot of that going on. So again, we're going to see the protests are more about ethics and about values that are going on. And the corruption, the good side of this is the corruption is going to get blocked. So I think these protests, the peaceful ones, and I want to emphasize that, will help to bring some blocks to the corruption. And crime is likely to backfire at this time. And what happens is those that try to commit these crimes that are in the corruption, they're going to end up having to deal with what they're trying to put on other people. So, they're going to have to deal with it on a bigger scale. So even if we're not seeing anything happen in the moment or this specific month, it will come back on them. And that is a key thing to keep in mind. Now, we also have in our action energy, as we move on to that from the 1st through the 20th, so basically the first 3 weeks of the month, there's going to be a big focus coming in on God and increasing divine presence. So some of the protesting that we're going to see going on will be against probably satanic groups, um, um, drag shows, abortions, probably things like that. You think of all the ones that connect to religion or to God aspects, and that's what we're going to see coming through in here. And I'm trying to deal with the breeze and the rain. Oh, this is fun. And give me just a moment here. I'm going to have to pull my door. I was trying to keep some air. I was trying to keep some air and some light in here. So I apologize for that, but also can't afford to have it be totally raining in here either. Okay. Hopefully that's going to be good enough. See if I can get myself back on the screen here a bit. Okay. So, boy, I'm looking all funky here, aren't I? Now, okay. So, oh, it just gets more and more fun, doesn't it? Okay. So, think of any of those things that are like religious hot points. And those religious hot points are going to be the source of what people are protesting about. So looking at those kind of things, like I said, also human trafficking, pedophilia, those would fall under those things. Anything that would be against God, divine presence in our world, is what's going to be the key focus in there. So Louisiana, for example, one of the actions that they're taking a lot of things, a lot of actions to bring God back into their culture and into their state. And they just passed recently to have the 10 Commandments in school. And I'm very pro some of those things, honestly. I think God is a good thing to have in our world. I think that's important to have in our world. We walk some fine lines, though, because the thing is if you allow for one belief, we've got to have multiple beliefs also be acceptable in there. And it gets a little touchy when you start to get into the school systems with this. And we have to stop and think, okay, if they came through and said, we're going to have the bylaws of Islam, or we're going to have the bylaws of Judaism, or we're going to have the bylaws of something else. Now, I know there will be people who will come back and say, yeah, but our country is founded on Christian values and God and this and that. I get that. But you have to think that if you cannot apply it to everyone, so to say, if you cannot apply it and make it available to each person, if each person doesn't have equal ability to have their thing represented, then we start to walk into some touchy areas, because then we're doing what they were doing to us in a sense. And that's not always going to be a good thing. So a little tricky area in there, but we will see more actions like that coming forward. Also, we're going to see the warriors of light get activated. So God's warriors, divine warriors, spiritual warriors getting activated. Corruption considers the backlash method. So again, more of the backlash coming in early in the month, even though we saw that in the main part of the month, later in the month, in the actions, those actions will still be taken in the early part of the month as well. And that backlash is going to particularly, again, be focused on creating suffering on those standing against it. So your churches, prayer, military is going to be doing a lot of removing of corruption. So that's going to be an interesting piece that's going to be coming up. And people are at a point that they're hitting a precipice. They're hitting a point where they're saying enough is enough. And with this happening, and excuse me just a moment here, I'm still getting a lot of water in, which I don't want to do in here. Can't afford to do that. Hang on. Storm's a little bit harder than originally anticipated, you might say, in here. So I'm working now off of different lights, my phone light and everything else in here. So, okay, military. People are at a point that they're done. They're done with a lot of stuff. They're done with a lot of this corruption, this behavior in the world. And so they're at a point that they're going to say, look, if you're not going to do it as the military, then we will do it ourselves. And there's a lot of mixed things in here, because on one hand, it's great that people are getting that proactive, right? It's great that people are standing up for what is right, for what is truthful, for values, for all of those things. And yet at the same time, that feeds right into some of what the corruption wants, which is a civil war. And if we go into that civil war, I don't think that that's a good thing for us to get into. So, so fun to see my hair appearing and disappearing on here. So people are really fed up with corrupt leaders. That's a big thing. And they've had enough. So this is why I'm saying the military is going to have to come into action in some form, because without that, people are going to start taking things into their own hands. And there's pros and cons around that. I get that. But that's the point that people are at. So if we're at a breaking point is the gist of it. Now we need to observe what is happening, but we also need to know what is our battles and what battles belong to somebody else. Okay, we must let other people reconcile their differences. In other words, as the United States, we don't want to be jumping into other people's wars, right? We don't want to jump into a war between China and Taiwan. We don't want to jump into a war between Russia and Ukraine. We don't want to be in these battles. Those are their battles to fight, and we don't want to be involved in them. So the same thing is true. We really want to kind of take more of this observation. We really want to make sure we're seeing a variety of perspectives and sides and realize that there are multiple sides. I've said it before, I've said it many times. We've got good people and we've got bad people on both sides, right? We've got, you know, it's not really that it's so much one side or another side as much as it is who's with the corruption and who's against the corruption, in a sense. So we got to know what are our battles to fight and what are somebody else's battles to fight. Knowing those roles, knowing where we can and cannot step up, what works and what doesn't work. And that's, you know, can be a little bit different for everybody, right? It's that aspect of take care of your own stuff, but don't go poking your nose in somebody else's business or where it doesn't belong, because that's only going to create more issues at this time. So then our action energy from the 21st through the end of the month, we have a lot of hidden things that are going to surface. So that's also going to be interesting. And that can also play into where, you know, we have those that are working for God and opening divine presence and doing good in the world, where they're moving forward. That can bring a lot of things to the surface, and that can be the cause of that retaliation coming up. So we're going to see a lot of plans exposed before they can even be implemented, which is really cool. That means that we don't have to go through some of those things that they would like to. That means that we may be able to avert some things that have been planned and in the works for a while. But we're going to see more exposure of corruption through hypocrisy and lies. So again, this exposure, they're going to be trying to do that gaslighting, and it's not going to work so well, you know, when they get into these bigger lies and stuff like that, because people are sitting there going, well, you're telling me everything's going better, but when I go to the store or the gas station or to buy anything, why is it still more expensive? It's so much more expensive than it was, a few years ago. So people are saying, yeah, you're telling me this, but you're not doing it. You're telling me that you have the border secured, but you're still letting thousands and thousands of people across unvetted every day. So, people really are not buying it. And again, this is where people are saying, look, either you guys do something or we're going to step in and do something. We're also going to see a lot of hidden relationships brought to the surface. And those connections brought to the surface, and also new relationships or partnerships could get formed at this time with those that are choosing integrity. So what we may see is we may see people who are coming together for a shared common goal. So people are saying, look, I want peace in my area. I don't want these battles going on. I don't want the crime. I don't want the drugs. So people who maybe even have been opposing each other might start coming together during this time. And I'm so sorry I keep bouncing around here with my part of me disappearing as I'm moving around. So a lot of exposure where people stand, and a lot of exposure around real versus fake alliances going on. So I think some of those sleepers might get activated. Are they true alliances? Are they fake alliances? Are they Democrats sitting in the Republican Party or Republicans sitting in the Democrat Party? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, and that's where observation becomes powerful. Don't just jump in the narratives and buy the first thing that comes out. Take a little time, research it, give it a few days, see what unfolds, and just let that come forward so that you can really get to the truth of things instead of just buying into what somebody is saying. Now, as we move into our thoughts or our mental processes or our logical processing during this time, the thought patterns that are going on, we have some dark mental spirals going on. And this is going to maybe be a little scary for people. This is running from the 1st and the 2nd, so just the first 2 days, which is not too bad. We will see people that are dealing with an increase of paranormal activity. And because of that increase of paranormal activity, we could see deaths or accidents happening. It is a much riskier, much dangerous time those couple of days. If you can really lay low those couple of days, it's great. People may actually be thinking of death a lot more during that time. And they may have hallucinations, which create accidents or death at that time. We may also see assassinations happening that are made to look like accidents during that time. And they'll blame it on something like, oh, the guy was just crazy. He was seeing stuff that wasn't there. And, the next thing we knew, he just flung himself off the balcony. Those types of weird things that we could expect just those first couple of days there. A lot of past strategies being brought back up. So things that it won't be anything new. It will be things that they're repeated plays. It's like doing a play all over again. And that's going to be used to move forward with. And resurfacing of people that we haven't seen for a while. So some of those people who haven't been in the news cycles. So let's say, you have some people, well, I mean, Fauci's been in and out, but one of the people I've seen recently just doing a hint of this or that, surfacing has been like Dr. Birx, who was around during the pandemic. So I think maybe some of those people that we haven't seen maybe in 4 years or something, may be coming back and being brought into the picture again. And this is going to be a time that, depending on who's being brought back up into the present moment or being brought into the spotlight, is also there will be a connection in there that will be teaching us how we move forward in a favorable direction, how we can move forward in a way that will be beneficial for us. Now, from the 3rd through the 25th, we have worries and anxieties increasing. And I think a lot of those are going to be orchestrated. I don't think that people are just naturally going to go, oh my God, I'm totally stressed. I can't deal with anything. I mean, because they've been dealing with things all along. And yes, again, they might hit a breaking point mentally, that starts to get them, or even emotionally. But I think that we are going to have things that are going to be pushed on us that will create worries and anxieties for people. I think there will be some things that are going down, whether that is creating worries and anxieties because people are wondering, can I work? How much more am I going to have to work? Can we pay the bills? What do we do after a certain point? Again, pushing this fear tactic in there. The thing that we want to keep in mind about this is that things are going to be made to look worse than they are. So it's kind of like all the climate change scares, right? They're made to look a lot worse than they are. You have all these weather people coming out going, oh my God, we've got this huge heat wave, right? They even did it to us in Maine. Oh my God, we've got this huge heat wave and it's all climate change and blah, 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 blah. We've had 3 days over 90-degree temperatures, or right at that. No big deal. We get it every year. It's nothing out of the normal. And matter of fact, most of the time we've been running much cooler than normal. So these things are going to get blown out of proportion to try to generate fear, anxiety, worry in people. And we need to reel it back into where the truth of it is and say, well, no, this really isn't normal. Summers are normally hot. Winters are normally cold. The leaves fall in the fall, leaves come on the trees in the spring. It's nothing out of the ordinary for the most part. So we've got to realize that things are being blown out of proportion. Again, trying to make the lies bigger than they are. It goes right hand in hand with that, right? People, this is all about controlled narratives, and they want people to be lost in the lies. They want their heads spinning so much and to be so stressed out about things that they start operating in self-deception. And they start convincing themselves of things being true that are not true. And once they get them to that point, they're very easily mind controlled. They're very easily held, in a programming. So we don't want to go down that path that's in there. And people are creating connections that are not true right now. So again, we got to be careful. We want to sit back a little bit because a lot of what we're seeing may not be fully true in there. And these are designed to pull us out of divine alignment, okay, away from God, and to tempt us into unhealthy choices. That's the ultimate goal. And we need to stop and go, what is in divine alignment? How do I hold that? It's not about connecting with certain people. It's about staying true to whatever that divine alignment is, to whatever is God's path, so to say, is in things. And to stay with the healthy choices and saying, yeah, this might look good, but you know what? I know that's not going to go in a good place. And I would rather to have this thing that maybe isn't wrapped so pretty, and to have it lead me to a good place and to get the bigger true results. So it's a kind of that differentiating between what is true and what is fake. It's like, what's the fake temporary pleasure versus what is the real sustaining pleasure? Thinking in that sense. We want to keep our mind on truth and integrity and stay out of the fear. Okay, the fear pulls us away from God. It pulls us away from divine source. It pulls us away from being in divine presence, which is what can help us, right? So we want to stay out of that fear because that fear is very self-sabotaging. That is self-deception going on in there. And we want to not be scared of what others might do. We don't want to go into that paranoia space because that's a lot of it, is they want you to think that they're going to do things that they're probably not actually going to do. But they're going to test the waters. They're going to see what we're committed to, or the strength of our commitment to different things, particularly our values in there. And they're going to see whether we can be tempted away with material things, with bribes, basically, is what it's about. So, I look at this, for example, an example of this is, hey, if we forgive your student loans, okay, will you vote for us? Okay, that's tempting people. Okay, and that's an example of it, because that's a short-term pleasure where people go, oh, that looks really good, right? That's packaged really well. I'd love to not have that debt, right? But in the long run, it creates more debt, more expenses, more issues going on. So it's not actually a true solution. It's not actually something that is a solution. That, and so the people that, you know, jump on that, it's like, oh, great, you know, it's forgiven and I don't have to worry about it. So we got to be careful of that. And this is a testing. They're going to test us to see what we will put up with and what we want. So actually, this is like a kid who tests their parents. With, you know, with that kid, you want to react on a very low level, because then they never get to the really dangerous stuff. If you go off the deep end and come at them strong on a small thing, then, you know, they'll never go do the big things because they think, man, if she's going to freak out over the small things, she's going to really freak out over the big things. So it's kind of like setting your parameters, setting your boundaries in there with it. We want to, again, keep in mind, stay in that truth and that integrity, stay out of fear of what others might do. They're testing the waters, and they're checking to see what's popular, or, you know, can you be bribed with status, with popularity, with material things, or are you going to stand strong on the soul's path and be a light in the world? Now, from the 26th on, so those last few days of the month, upheaval and chaos is going to come up. So it's going to really kind of blow up at the end of the month to a certain extent. And that's designed to disorient people. That's to get them confused. That's to get their, again, get them in sort of a trauma dynamic where they can't think clearly. And again, they can be influenced if they can't think clearly. Some people during this time, it's going to be overload for them, and they're just going to want to escape. They just want to go find their pleasant little daydream and forget about the world. And you're going to see people wanting to do some of that escapism going on. So you've got two factors of those people that are just running, and those people that, you know, are going to stand strong in the upheaval, and then those people who are going to get twisted around in it, really. So, they see what they want and not what is. And that's a dangerous spot, because people are focused on, this is what I want. And this is what I want to hear. So if you're telling me what I want to hear, maybe I'm going to go with that. And they're not looking at what things actually are. So it's a real treacherous, kind of tricky space to be in. And the reality of it is we can't escape what we don't want to see. We just need to learn to be calm. We need to center in. I center into God in these situations. I get calm there. And just because we don't like something doesn't mean we get to escape it. It's not going to go away, even if you try to hide from it. It's still going to be there. You know, I can crawl in my vehicle and say, oh, look, I'm hiding from the storm. Well, you know what? The storm's still going on. I'm sure you can hear it, right? The storm's still going on, whether I try to hide from it or not. It's not just going to go away because I don't want to look at it. Okay. There's going to be rebellion where people are confined or restricted, and people are unwilling to give up their freedom. And this leads to restructuring priorities. So this is going to get really interesting. They're going to be testing these waters, tempting it, and people are going to be, no, not going to do that. We're not giving up our values and our priorities and our beliefs and all of these things. And so we are probably going to see some rebellion, but again, we want to stay in that legal, ethical action and not reaction. And that's very, very important. We don't want to engage in the battle. We want to take action. And there's a very big difference in there. It's good that people are no longer willing to give it up. Again, we're hitting this precipice in July, which is going to be a really interesting thing to see with people. And we're learning what holds true value. So people are coming back to values. They're coming back to what is truly important in life. Time with family, certain basic values that they want to have, and they're not going to let those be pushed out. We're going to see in here attempts to get people to give up their values for the slave system. So we're going to see a big push for some of those new world order kind of narratives going on, and trying to sell people into these slave system components. And we've got to be very, very careful for that, because what is pushed is designed to destroy families and societies. So that tells us right off one of the biggest values that people are going to be fighting for is family values, family time, the family unit. And that's going to cross things like our education systems, our health systems, our religious structures, things like that. And they're going to be doing a lot of lying to manipulate people to break up these units, because if they can break up the family units and they can break up the communities and they can get everybody arguing and divided against each other, then they're going to have a lot of control and power. And that's where we have to come back and say, no, not in our community, not with our family. And we're going to have to stand strong on it. So again, we must work with actual facts and stand up for what is right. And the facts will set us free. Literally, the facts will set us free. And fighting each other is going to destroy us. So we don't want to go down that path. Now, as we move on to the soul energy, and the soul energy is still important very much in our world events and in world affairs and things that are going on, because that's literally our heart and soul. I mean, that's our God energy. That is divine presence in our world. That is the essence of who we are. And if we lose that soul energy, when the soul comes under attack with things, then we are strictly in a materialistic existence. And when that happens, it's like game over, and it's not a good scenario. So the soul energy from the 1st through the 11th, we again are seeing that family energy. So we have it at the very end in the action, in the mental energy and the thought patterns, but then we also have it at the beginning in the soul patterns. So this is going to be a bigger dynamic throughout the month, right? At the beginning and the end of the month. Families are going to get challenged. And this is going to be a tricky thing. Here again, we may see some more things come up, maybe in the school systems or other areas where they're saying, oh, well, you don't have to ask your parents for this. Don't tell mom and dad about this. This is your choice, okay? And we may see some things trying to be set up to allow small children to make decisions that they shouldn't be making, that they really, are not equipped to be making. And so that's going to be another big thing that we're going to see coming around. Materialism. And boy, I'm just like fading in and out all over the place here. Materialism tries to break our spirit at this time. So these people with money, power in the world, influence in the world, who are in these positions of control and authority, they are really going to be working to break down the spirit. As in, there's no way you can make it. We're going to make life harder and harder on you. We're going to inflict more suffering on you just to get that power and control. And we've got to, again, be very careful. And again, this is going to be part of what brings people to that breaking point. We're going to see religious battles going on. So a lot of church versus state components going on. And we must not allow the manipulation for status and money. Okay, this is very important. I know it's hard. Out of many people in this world, know a lot about giving up a lot of things to keep spirit alive and to not give into that materialism. And I have been put through, earthly hell, so to say, at times, because I would not cave into the materialism. And we're going to have to learn to be strong. And that can require some sacrificing to a certain extent. But again, if we're placing an emphasis on value, if we're placing an emphasis on being with family and friends and these valuable experiences and engaging our senses through nature and, through listening to a rainstorm, watching a sunset, whatever it is, okay, then we can avoid some of these materialistic patterns that are coming up in our world. And there's a lot of them, and they do, because they know a lot of people operate by materialism. And they're going to go for the money, and they're going to go for the status, and they're going to go for the power, because they haven't overcome those things soulfully, spiritually as an individual to be able to say no to them. So they're going to use these things to manipulate people into the action that they want. And what the greedy are trying to do is those who are greedy are seeking to break spirit of those who are barely surviving. So they're really trying to push people over that limit because they figure if I can break your spirit when you are barely surviving, you're going to cave into my new world system and become my slave. And that's, pretty much the essence of it. Um, and one of the ways that I think that they may do is I think we're going to see yet another round of money being issued to Ukraine. I think Biden's going to do another push for that. And this is again, it's greed. It's all about the greed breaking the people. It's like, no, we're going to break you and we're going to force you to pay even more money to these people who are greedy over there. And because it is going to a lot of personal stuff, it's not going to what they've told people is going to at all. There's going to be greed shown in humanitarian and philanthropic organizations. So that's going to be part of that exposure we see come up, where we're going to find out again this networking of resources going on in these organizations. And it's like, yeah, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, it's really just about making a whole lot of money, and it has nothing to do with helping humanity. These sorts of things that are going to come up. So it's going to show the greed that is in these organizations. That exposure is coming up. And the thing is they capitalize on this essence that people have in our souls, right? We want to feel good about things we give to, like we want to help people who are in need, right? We want to support good things in the world. We just aren't given the truth most of the time, especially with these bigger organizations. And I always come back to, if you want to support good, do something in your own community. Sure, it's great to do it on a big scale, but when you do it in your own community and it's a small group in your community and it's helping the people of your community, your whole community benefits, not just a particular individual, but the whole community benefits. And that money isn't just going to somebody's salary or supporting huge amounts of income to people who are already extraordinarily rich to start with, because they're benefiting off of certain things being done or going through. So, putting it into the community actually ends up doing a lot more good than putting it into a lot of these organizations. And so they capitalize on this need for people to do good things and to support good things in the world. And that can easily be taken in by, the greedy. And they'll do more lies and narratives around the environment. Probably we're going to see that come up here in the 1st through the 11th, to play on people's soul, on their good-hearted nature. Look at how the environment's suffering. Oh, look at this, look at that. We've got to get to net zero or our earth is going to be destroyed. Look, the narrative that the earth is going to be destroyed has been going around for so long. I mean, I don't think that there's a decade of my life that, hasn't had the world is going to end narrative in some form coming up, and something around the environment. Here again, it's all about all of this scare, lies and narratives is what it is. So we'll see that come up, and people are going to be like, oh, we got to help the environment. Well, we got to stop and think that, the environment has been here far longer than we have. Most of these narratives, what they want to do are not true solutions. They are simply narratives to make greedy people money, is what it's really about. And it's not about helping the earth. It's not about helping the environment or the animals or humanity or any of these things. And that's why we have to be so careful of them, because it plays into this desire of people wanting to do good when it really isn't going to good. So they take advantage of that. So we've got to be very, very careful. And they're going to use these narratives to shape the perceptions of who is and is not doing good in the world. So here again, this is going to be a way to divide people and to say, look, we're the good guys. Forget the fact that we're making millions and billions of dollars off of this whole thing. We're the good guys. And these other people who are trying to say that we are not the good guys are the bad guys. And so here again, this inversion, and they're going to push their agendas, that they care about others. And of course, this is always an election year tactic. Oh, but we care about other people. We care, we care about no, they don't, because not one of their actions in the last 4 years has been about caring about people. It's all been about selfish, greedy stuff. So we need to think about that and say, yeah, if you cared, you would have been doing something for the last 4 years, not just giving me words. Remember again, it's that big illusion. Um, it's that hypocrisy that the words are not matching up with the actions. Now, from the 12th through the end of the month, we need to observe things with objective eyes. So if we can do this, this is going to help us to let go of the programming, and we're going to be able to start learning how to see more than one side of things. And this is important because there is always more than one side, and there are truths on both sides. And we don't want to get locked into our echo chambers, and we don't want to be doing what we are upset that the other side is doing. So we really want to look at it and look at things from multiple perspectives, multiple viewpoints, realize there's multiple possibilities at hand in something. And again, really start to filter down into the truth as opposed to just looking at things from one side, one perspective. And as we do this, we can then start to work with others. And this is where I come into that common goal factor, right? We might have different political opinions, but I bet there's some common goals we have. We want our neighborhoods safe. We don't want drug infested neighborhoods, crime neighborhoods. We want our children kept safe. We want our food supply safe, our water supply safe. We want our earth to thrive and flourish and to be good. We want to be able to walk down the street and not have to worry about if we're going to get mugged. We want to, not have to worry about things that are happening when we go to bed at night. We don't want to be under constant surveillance, these sorts of things. So there's a lot of things that we have common ground about that we could agree on. And that's where we want to start to join forces in there. So finding those common goals, and we get there by seeing things from more than one perspective. Then what we want to do is engage the values and skills of others to create a strong team. So if we are truly going to fight corruption in this world, if we are truly going to stand up to it and to say no to it and to move in a favorable direction for our future, then we want to engage the different values and the skills and the wisdom that people have. And those different perspectives are going to be very valuable as we move forward, right? You want somebody who knows about electrical things. You want somebody who knows about the environment. You want somebody who knows about business. You want somebody that knows about these things. And as you start to bring all of these different skills and values together, you create a really strong team in the process of doing that. One final thing that we have to be careful of, because this does hit us on an emotional level, our spirit level, our soul level, is that our bodies are going to also be vulnerable in this last half of the month. And that does weigh on our spirits, because it's like, gosh, it's one more thing. I already have this pressure of maybe not being able to pay my bills very easily. And if I get sick, that's going to add to that stress, those fears, those anxieties, that it is going to play into all those things, right? And then you're going to be more willing to take the temptations that are being offered you instead of holding your ground. So if we know that our body is more vulnerable and that's going to drag our spirit down if we get sick, we want to take the time to be cautious and to boost our health. Boost our health, get the extra rest, be careful of large crowds. Why? Because people sneeze, because they, have different things. You don't need to be in a paranoid fear state, but maybe you just shop in a less busy time if you can do that. Maybe you shop a little more local, go to your farmers markets, where it's open air this time of year, and you can, be in fresh air. And so you're not going to be as susceptible to maybe some things that you would in a bigger supermarket. Okay. In there. So considering those, we want to pay attention, and in particularly things that are going to get triggered in our health during this time is going to be cardiovascular things, blood pressure, mental conditions, respiratory conditions, kidney damage, bacterial infections, and fungal infections. So when we consider that, we really want to take a look. Take a look at what are those antibacterial, antifungal foods. You have things like coconut oil, right? Coconut oil is great. It's antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial in it. You have things like onions and garlic and ginger, you know, turmeric and things like that, that all are naturally fighting in these. Vitamin C, good. Getting out into the sun a little bit, moderation with that, because we know certainly if it's a super hot day in the middle of the day is maybe not as good as maybe some of the other points to just, but you do want to get out maybe for a little bit and get a little bit of sun on you, because that stimulates a lot of things in our body and our system. We want to do the antioxidants, right? Because if the respiratory system is going to be more vulnerable, then the antioxidants are going to be important to have in there. Eating things that are lower in fat, right? If we're looking at cardiovascular and blood pressure things and stuff like that, some of the lower fat items are going to be more beneficial, or we may want to look at more vegetables and fruits in our diets. I'm not 100% vegan, I'm going to admit that, but that being said, there are times that we need to put more of a focus, or we need to increase those vegetables and fruits that we're having in there, and try to get as much variety in your diet. The more variety you have in your diet of healthy foods, then the more your body can take hold and be strong and process them and build its immunity up in there. So anyways, those are just some components. That's what's going on in July. Thanks for hanging in there with me through this storm, through my hair and my head and pieces of me kind of fading in and out here. Kind of funny. See, all these things, I can do all kinds of funny things, I guess, with myself on here. But I really appreciate you hanging in here, and I will be back next month with you. Who knows where I'm going to be, where I'm going to be sitting. Hopefully, there'll be some better options for me, and I will be able to have enough light where I won't have to have a backdrop on me or something like that. So take care, everybody. Stand strong. Make sure you like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it out, all of those good things. You know what to do. I appreciate it because it does help me. I mean, it does make a difference, especially for somebody who doesn't have as big of a channel as other people out there. And just that's one way to give love and support to the work that I'm doing, and just to show you care. And by the way, the 2025 book right now is scheduled to come out August 17th. That's the current scheduled release date on that. So look for that to be coming up. I'll probably share a little bit more about it over the next month or two, but I'm so close there. I'm down to the proofreading stages and getting ready to get it set up into the systems and for print and all of that. So it's very exciting to be bringing a closure to getting the 2025 done. If you'd like, I do have on Smashwords coming up at the end of June. At some point at the end of June, or 1st of July, I think it is, I will be putting the ebook down again in price. So that is something to watch for if you want to check it out and see what the content is like. And also on my website, compassioncodes.com, you can go to the goods tab, see the code journey, and that will get you direct links both to Smashwords or over into Amazon, where you can purchase the paperback book. So watch for both of those, and I'll be putting the links up in a couple of months for the 2025 version. So take care, and I will see you soon.